In a rare letter to Roman Catholics around the world today, Pope Francis condemned the atrocities of sex abuse and its cover-up. The Pope asked his flock to, quote, join forces in uprooting this culture of death. The Church itself, the pontiff said, would spare no effort to ensure that such situations never happen again, and that the Church had fallen short of its responsibilities to children and to the faithful. The Pope said, quote, the Church did not act in a timely manner, realizing the magnitude and the gravity of the damage done to so many lives. We showed no care for the little ones. We abandoned them. There are almost 1 billion Catholics around the globe and 7.3 here in New York State. But the question is, what will this mean for the faithful? Joining me with insight is Father Sam Sawyer, Executive Editor of America Media. Father, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I had a chance to read your article that you published, and you actually brought this was hit very close to home for you.
Yes, I grew up in the Diocese of Scranton, which is one of the dioceses covered by the Pennsylvania Grand Jury report that was released last week. And actually one of the priests named in there, not one with a detailed narrative, but one of the priests in the list had his first assignment at my childhood parish, and I remember meeting him.
Okay, but you also did, it was more of a meeting, like you did make it clear that you didn't really overlap.
I think I was 10
yeah.
when he was there, so I knew him,
yeah.
As our parish priest. There wasn't any abuse alleged at that parish, but one of the things I saw in the report, and one of the things that struck home to me, especially now as a priest myself, was that his history of assignments was short assignment, short assignment, short assignment, leave of absence, short assignment, which is the pattern that we know from this abuse scandal across the past decade and a half. We know that's the pattern of a priest who's not doing well, or who is hurting people and then being removed and put back. I don't know what the story is, particularly with this guy, but it's clear that there is something very broken in the Church, just in that pattern of assignments for him. And it really did strike home to know that this had been in some way in process in my church growing up, and that it has affected people who I grew up with. It's still affecting people back home in the Diocese of Scranton today.
Of course. I also wanted to get your take on the way that Pope Francis is handling this, because he has been lauded by many for handling a lot of very difficult situations in a different manner than we've seen previous popes do. Did he wait too long to respond, or was it the right response?
I think it is moving in the direction of the right response. I think, in our contemporary media culture, we'd always like to see a response faster. And it felt like we were waiting for the acknowledgement of some kind of response to the grand jury report after it was released. But certainly as the Church moves and as the Vatican moves, having something within the week is very fast indeed. So we are moving in the right direction of the response. And I think what Pope Francis's letter released this morning does, which is new, is it clearly identifies clericalism, the sense of privilege on the part of priests and bishops, and the structures in the Church that allow them to focus on maintaining their status, as one of the root causes, if not the root cause, of the cover-up part of this abuse scandal. So I think that's new and that's important.
And that does seem to be one of the things that, at least from my reading of the reaction to this scandal, that has so many people upset. It's not just the victims who are abandoned or perhaps not believed, but it's who's going to be held accountable.
Exactly. When the first wave of the abuse scandal broke in Boston in 2002, we at that point heard a lot about these patterns of abuse in the Church. And the grand jury report in Pennsylvania, in fact, the vast majority of those cases are older than 2002. So in some sense, the initial set of reforms has already grappled with a lot of what went wrong in those cases. What wasn't dealt with in 2002, what still hasn't been dealt with yet, is how do we hold accountable those in power, the bishops and the people governing the Church, who failed to take care of victims of abuse the first time, who failed to listen to them, who protected priests and moved them around from church to church. Those people haven't been held accountable, and that's what I think the focus is on now. How are we going to hold the Church to a higher standard than just we did the minimum required.
Do you think that there could ever be an investigation like that, like the one that we saw in Pennsylvania and New York State?
I think it's actually likely that there would be. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the New York Attorney General's office is starting something like that right now or already has something in progress.
My final question is that you spoke so passionately in your piece about the need to care for victims. And is there any chance that in an attempt to rectify the situation, that the church steps up and helps some of these victims with the long-term scars that they might be dealing with?
So I hope we do. I hope the first thing we do is that we don't wait for a civil investigation and attorneys general to drag this out of us, but that we come forward with what we know in advance. The Archdiocese of New York a couple years ago set up a settlement fund to try to help victims. I think more things in that direction are necessary to help provide some measure of restitution, some help with counseling and with the ongoing costs that victims bear, that survivors bear from their trauma. The church already does quite a bit of that, but it's scattered, and I don't think it's as well known, nor is it as comprehensive as it needs to be.
All right, well, listen, Father Sam Sawyer, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Again, a very moving piece that you wrote in America Media. We'll be definitely following your work as hopefully there's better news to speak to you about.
Let's hope and pray.
Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely. Thank you.